This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, Heather, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diving, welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. And on this day, July the 15th, in the year 1912, Jim Thorpes finished off one of the greatest moments of athletics history, winning not just the pentathlon, but the decathlon. So they had 10 events. And 29 people were ready to go and all that. Jim Thorpe in the 100 meters had an 11-second time, which wasn't the fastest, as he was behind Scott Jacobson and Eugene Mercer. But after a 6.79 meter jump in the long jump, he was second behind his U.S. teammate Eugene Mercer. In the shot put, he beat Nielsen of Sweden to win that event and puts himself in first place in front of Lomberg and Mercer, for that matter. In the high jump, Thorpe easily won the high jump competition, putting him miles ahead of Lomberg of Sweden and Westlander of Sweden. So the two Swedes were fighting it out. In the 400 meters, Thorpe had a 52 seconds 400 meters, losing to Eugene Mercer, his teammate. Mercer got into third place. Lomberg was second, and Thorpe was miles ahead by 400 plus points. After the first half, Canadian Frank Lukeman was in sixth place, which was great, a Canadian. And down in 11th was someone by the name of Avery Brundage. In the discus, Jim Thorpe took third place in the discus behind American George Philbrook and Austrian Josef Schäfer. Thorpe still was in the lead, but with Philbrook's amazing discus, he jumps over Lomberg and Westlander and jumps into second place. Brundage took ninth. In the 110 hurdles, Thorpe easily won the competition by 0.6 seconds over James Donahue of the U.S. Thorpe would jump into first place with Philbrook second and Lomberg third. Avery Brundage was jumping up the leaderboard. He was in 8th place. In the pole vault, Eugene Mercer was the pole vault guy. Thorpe only went 3.25 meters in height and took a tie for third. He still was 700 points ahead of second place Charles Lomberg, with Hugo Westlander in third place. Unfortunately, the Canadian Frank Lukeman had a bad stuff, so did Brundage. The worst part was that the Canadian Lukeman and Brundage didn't compete in the final two events. Thorpe took fourth in the javelin throw. He was in the lead by almost 700 points, with Westlander of Sweden second and Lomberg third and Homer fourth. 3 Swedes in the top 4, but not number 1. Now, of course, this was in Stockholm, the Olympics were. I forgot to mention that. And in the 10th event, Jim Thorpe won the 1500 meters, got the gold, with Hugo Westlander of Sweden getting silver and Charles Lomberg getting bronze. So not a bad job for the Swedes. 2 Swedes in the top 3. Unfortunately, bad things would come. So Thorpe had won the pentathlon, the 7 event thing, and the decathlon 10 event thing. It's amazing. It's like, holy smokes. He's number 1. So, great time to be American and all that. And spirited taking the next 3 places. He was king. King Gustav V actually called him, "You, sir, are king. You, sir, are royalty. Thanks, king. The greatest athlete in the world. Thanks, king." So, unfortunately for Jim Thorpe, the good times wouldn't roll, as in 1913, he had his gold medals taken away from him. Reason being is because he broke amateur rules. He had played Major League Baseball. No, sorry, he didn't play Major League Baseball. He played in some Class D baseball in 1909, 1910. Considered a violation because he got paid for his stuff. He was stripped. Forbes said that he needed the money as an Indian schoolboy and all that. And unfortunately, because of all the negativity towards the natives and all that, that fell on deaf ears in a sense. So Thorpe was not Olympic champion. People still say he was. Thorpe unfortunately had a terrible life after that. He did play Major League Baseball, but he was penniless by the time he died in 1953. And people just didn't want to deal with Jim Thorpe. Kind of pathetic, don't you think? What's worse is that there's a perceived notion that Avery Brundage, remember that name I said earlier, his decathlon teammate, may have had something to do with it. Well, when Brundage became the IOC, or Olympic Committee, president in 1952, he held on for 20 plus years. And a lot of people said that Brundage would never hear Jim Thorpes, the pleas to return Jim Thorpes gold medals, because, well, for one thing, the main reason is probably because of racism, because, Jim Thorpe being a Carlisle Indian or whatever you want to call it, and Brundage being a white supremacist in a sense. He's a supremacist for the fact that he supported Hitler. Are you crazy? Brundage also basically was kind of a dick to professionalism. He would not allow skiers to have logos of their sponsors on their skis and all that. So, he was all about amateurism. I understand his point of view, but, ski companies pay these athletes, and that's how they live. And Brundage didn't figure that because he was affluent and wealthy. The problem being is that Brundage was accused of being racist and also a sore loser because, Brundage didn't do so on the decathlon, but he didn't compete in the final 2 events. So, yeah, he was kind of a sore loser. Fortunately, though, the IOC by 1983 decided, screw it, we're going to give Thorpe's kids his gold medals back. So they did. But there was one tiny problem. Thorpe was still a quote-unquote co-champion as the pentathlon and decathlon winners there. However, today, ironically enough, today, July 15, 2022, it's been announced that Jim Thorpe will be the sole Olympic champion in pentathlon and decathlon. 110 years after he won the decathlon gold medal, he is going to be the sole champion. I bet you the Wieslander and Bies family, the guys who were the co-champions, kind of said, okay, that's fine. But Jim Thorpe is going to be restored to Olympic glory. And you can't beat that. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.